Hey everyone, Dev with Crime Hive, and I've got a couple stories here that I want to convey. We've got first some good news here with an arrest being made in the murder of Adam Dowdell, and I'm going to talk about that. And then after that, we're going to talk about a woman. Her name is Carol Nystrom, and she was murdered. But the reason I want to get this out is there's an active manhunt for her boyfriend, and we'll talk about that as well. And then another missing person, you guys. Another missing woman. Her name is Danielle Garrett, 27 years old. We'll talk about that case as well. And then I'm going to revisit an update with a previous case I've been following with Mark Wilson Jr., who was arrested for the murder of the Putnam County boys in Florida. Vicious murder with the hammer and knife. We'll talk about an update on that as I have the arrest affidavit, and we'll go into a couple details on that. So before I get into all this again, if you like these kind of true crime videos, just be sure to subscribe. If you do that, you can hit the bell notification. That will give you all updates. If you put that to all, where you can get these updates on these cases as I cover them. Now let's talk about the update with Adam Dowdell. Again, really good news on this. Obviously, the family wanted justice, and the recent development, an arrest was made, and it appears that it was another Alabama State University student who was arrested. And in this case, they've identified this person as Ivry Hall. So he's known to Adam, and it appears that he was on the campus. And what happened was, from all accounts, this Ivry Hall individual, he had an upbringing at a young age where he was escaping. It looks like he was escaping inter-gang violence on Chicago's South Side. Lost both his parents at a young age, and then had turned his life around. Apparently, became a valedictorian at his high school. Got a scholarship to Alabama State University. So it looked like his life was on track. And then this happens, and now he's accused of murder. So a lot of unanswered questions. We will have more information as it comes out. Would like to get my hands on the arrest affidavit to find out the motive. Still don't really know motive in this case, but we know that the murder took place not far from the campus. Still don't know a lot of details, but I wanted to give you that update on that case, and I'll play a quick little clip as well, just so you can see. It looks like it was a shooting. Looks like Adam was shot. And then they're still continuing this investigation. There's not a lot of details being released. And I do have another video, of course, on when Adam went missing. So I cover the details of the case. If you're not familiar with this case, you can go back, and I'll provide that in the link below this video as well. So quick clip on this here that I just wanted to share in relation to the update here.
A suspect has been arrested in connection with the fatal shooting of Alabama State University student Adam Dowdell. 20-year-old Ivry Hall is a student at ASU himself. Montgomery police say he's been arrested and charged with murder. Dowdell was found dead 4 days ago on Hutchinson Street, not far from the ASU campus. That's just across the interstate. He had been missing for nearly a week. He was last seen on ASU's campus September 8th. Ivry Hall's bond has been set at $250,000. A breaking.
Okay. So
in other news.
So yeah, update on that, and so the family's obviously appreciative of that aspect of it, and so I wanted to give that quick update. Now, I'm going to transition to an active case here because we have a murder of a woman here, and as you can see her photo, Carol Nystrom. Appears she was just a hardworking, artistic woman, and a lot of people have made comments just saying how bright of an individual she was, how she just lit up the community she was in. So a lot of respect from peers in the community. She was viciously murdered. What we've learned about this, and again, active manhunt for the boyfriend. Apparently, he stabbed Nystrom in their Inwood apartment, and troubled past here with them, as we've learned. The past from this suspect who's on the loose, and I'll show you a picture of him. His name is Joshua Martinez, 33 years old. This is what he looks like right here. He was actually released from jail not too long ago. He's got a very violent history, according to these records here. So I'll cover a couple of those things as we go along. what we're learning is apparently Martinez would argue with Nystrom quite a bit. I mean, apparently there were just nightly arguments, loud arguments. Neighbors would hear these, and it was just a continuing thing. So obviously it's escalated to the point of murder, and police are still looking for Martinez, and I'll get into the details of that as we go through. This was the disturbing thing. He was arrested. So he was arrested in March, not too long ago, a couple months back, for apparently he tried to shake down an acquaintance for $10. I mean, we're talking about $10 here. Stole the man's wallet, used a blade to slash him in the back, the ear, and the forehead. So very violent type of individual we're dealing with here. So he was sent behind bars, and then he was released. Now what happened is just 2 days after he's released from jail or from prison, I'd imagine he was, I don't know how long his sentence was. I'm not sure what the status of that was, how long he was in for that. I mean, we're talking March until, just until September here. So brief stay in jail or prison, wherever he was behind bars, and comes out 2 days later and stabs Nystrom to death. So, he allegedly beat her as well, and then he flees, goes on the run. This is what the apartment looks like, and I'm just following this article because it's just giving us a good idea of what happened. But I want to get this information out because he's known to be in a few areas of this neighborhood, and so I'll point that out as well. But again, Nystrom, she just walked dogs. She delivered food for DoorDash. Apparently, she was a seamstress. She was making COVID-19 masks for friends, and it allowed Martinez back into her life. Giving him a place to stay, and then of course this happened. So really tragic, very tragic story, and just seeing if there was anything else left in this one here. I'm going to go back to the other article here where it shows him. Here's the information here. If you have any information, this is again in New York. Crime Stoppers you can contact 1-800-577-8477. And they have a description of him as well. The reason I pulled this article up, though, is today's Saturday. And it looks like he actually called police and threatened to commit suicide by cop, according to some sources here. So not looking like this is going to end peacefully from what we're seeing right now, as police are actively searching all around for him. He's obviously wanted for this murder. He's dangerous. Don't know what he's capable of at this point, but it sounds like he has nothing to lose. And he is in, there's a couple areas that they mentioned here. So the apartment was on West 206th Street. And then the areas that he was known to frequent, looks like, okay, so he's known to frequent the Inwood neighborhood, if you happen to be in that area, as well as Brooklyn and the Rockaways in Queens. So if you happen to be in those areas, be on the lookout for Martinez. And then, again, just going through here, he's described, this is the other thing I wanted to mention before I move on here. So he's described as a Hispanic male, about 5'6", 165 pounds. And he was last seen wearing a gray New York Yankees jersey. So that could come into play. Don't know if he's, brought other clothing items with him, but he could still potentially be in that New York Yankees jersey. That could be a very good indicator. If you happen to see somebody that matches his description right here, we'll just show that one more time here. This is what he looks like. So again, active manhunt. Now, I want to go to another case here, and this involves another missing person. Now, this is Danielle Garrett, 27 years old. Not a lot of information on this. It's still developing, but what we do know is, and this is a little disturbing, there was an apparent argument with her boyfriend right before she disappeared on September 12th. So it's been about a week now we're looking at, and this takes place in New Orleans. So what we've learned here is Danielle apparently leaves this voicemail for a friend on that Saturday, September 12th. And what's weird is the friend tries to return the call, and then it gets declined. And I saw another report that it was declined several times. They kept trying to call, and the phone just went to voicemail. So at this point, really strange circumstance there. That, in addition to an argument with boyfriend right before she disappears, is, from what we're seeing here, boyfriend was the last person to be in contact with her before she disappears. And we know how that ends up in a majority of cases. The last person to have seen someone that was killed or murdered, so, that person is often involved. Now, I'm not saying that the boyfriend is guilty by any account. It's just strange. I want to get this information out there. Boyfriend could be completely innocent. Don't want to draw conclusions. Don't have all the facts on that. So if you do have any updates or facts on that, though, please leave some comments below so we can get that information. Now, don't know where she's at. She hasn't been heard since. Now, she apparently has a vehicle, though. And I'll tell you what she's described as. She's described as a light Hispanic female, about 5'8", weighs about 160 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair. Apparently she does have tattoos on the top of both feet, her back, and her left bicep. So that could be important information there. And then this is a similar vehicle right here. This is a 2005 Ford Escape. It's got Michigan plates on it. So again, this takes place in New Orleans. So this really sticks out. This is an important potential clue or something that could help someone out there recognize this vehicle, recognize her. It's plate EHB 0728 from Michigan, and apparently her vehicle is missing as well. So really interesting story there. Is that still developing? I'll get you an update on that. If you have updates, please let me know. And then you can also call detectives there at New Orleans Police Department at 504-658-6050. So that's what I have for that. And then the last case I just want to give you an update on is this vicious case that we've talked about before. I have a video on this as well, and I'll probably provide a link to that too, because I'm covering quite a few cases in this video. I normally stick mainly with one, but I do a couple videos to give you updates too. So this time I'm covering a few different cases. But this suspect right here we're talking about is Mark Wilson Jr. I did have a video on that case. Now I've got the arrest affidavit, and I want to it's really short, but I want to give you the updates on what I've learned as I've read through it. So this again comes from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office here. This is in Florida, vicious crime, and here's how we really learned how Mark was captured. And it's pretty interesting as I'm reading through this. And so we know, again, this took place on August 26th, not that long ago, 2020. We learned that Putnam County Sheriff's Office, they respond out there to this home in Florida here, where there's two children inside with blood surrounding them. Okay, there was a 911 call from the grandmother, who was identified as Debbie Benson. She was notified from the mother, Sarah Benson, that she just wakes up inside her home and sees her children deceased. Right, so deputies arrive there. Now they go in and just blood everywhere. I mean, the deputies have just described this scene as the worst they've ever seen. I've even heard some police that responded to this are struggling with PTSD. And I mean, just it's that bad. So there's blood all over. They're seeing one of the children here just laceration to the throat. So that's something that I had not known. And then also an opening of the skull. That's how vicious this is here that we're talking about. So again, if you can't bear with this type of information, you're welcome to stop it. But I'm just giving the information because it's important to know what happened in this case. A lot of people are trying to understand it still. So you've got the other child was found in another room, deceased, face down, with blood drag marks near the body. So very, very vicious. They execute a search warrant. What happens from there is they actually remove the bodies. They do an autopsy, and they determine that the children died as a result of a few different things. So the autopsy shows that there was a severing of both of their throats, okay, and then there was multiple sharp force incisions on both boys, and they died as a result of blunt force. So the skulls and the severing of both of their throats. So we're talking about a hammer that was being used, and then also a knife, okay? During the search warrant, they found the hammer and the knife. It was actually wrapped, and this was new as well. I knew they had found it. We're finding that it was wrapped in a towel under a sink in the detached game room at the rear of the residence, and this is where Mark stayed. Now, we learn, this is the interesting part about this here, that we learn how Mark was really captured. And this is an unidentified witness. I don't know if this is a family member, family friend, an acquaintance. It doesn't say in the affidavit, so I don't want to draw any speculation on that. But they're describing them as witness one, and this takes place just the day after the murder. So this is on August 27th. And what we learn there is that this witness says that Mark Wilson had confessed to hurting the kids. So he says that he spoke with Mark the previous night. That would have been on the 26th when this had occurred, and 26th is when the Putnam County Sheriff's Office responded to the house. And so he says that he spoke with them, and this is what we learn. He's talking with them, saying, "Hey, Mark, you should just take a lie detector test to prove that you had nothing to do with the murder of the boys." So apparently he thinks that Mark's involved from the beginning, according to this. I mean, it sounds like he thinks he's involved. And then Mark's saying, he doesn't think he could take a lie detector test. So the witness says, what do you mean? If you didn't do anything to the boys, you have nothing to worry about. And then Mark says, "I messed up." And so, it gets real up close and personal right here, where the witness then says, did you hurt these boys? And he doesn't respond. And so this witness apparently grabs Mark's face. I mean, he's up close right next to him, grabbing his face, asking him again, "Did you hurt these boys?" And then he apparently admits. He says, "Yes, I did." So this witness has told law enforcement about this. So what they do is they set up a controlled meeting. And this is between the witness and Mark. This was all arranged. We've got recorded conversations now between this witness and Mark. And this is where Mark admits to killing the boys because he felt the boys' family was trying to put stress on his family by reporting them to DCF. DCF, that's the Department of Children. Let me get the exact name of it here. It's basically, and it'll tell me in here. So it's so it's the Florida Department of Children and Families. So, and I don't know much about Mark's family. I don't know what children he may have, but apparently this was going to be reported. And so, he lashes out at 12-year-old Robert Baker and 14-year-old Tayten Baker. Again, they were the only ones killed, but there were other people in the house. And so what Mark says in the affidavit is, he says, and this is, so we know that he admits to killing the boys, right? What he says is that his girlfriend, Cindy, and him had pre-planned to kill the entire family in this Florida home. This is coming from Mark. And he says that this included the mother, Sarah, the 4-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy. And so there's really 4 people in this home when this murder occurs. 2 were killed. You still have the 4-year-old and Sarah, who were spared, apparently. But the plan was for Cindy to kill Sarah and the 4-year-old. And Mark was to kill the two boys who were killed, right? And then Mark says that he was angry because Cindy did not follow through after he killed the 2 boys. Now, I've looked through some other reports, and it appears the family does not think Cindy is in any way involved. Law enforcement has even said this in reports that she's given them DNA. She's been interviewed. She's been totally cooperative. So there's no indication that Cindy was involved in this plot, per se, that Mark was putting together in them. It is interesting, though, that Mark did spare the other 2, and the 2 children were just murdered viciously with this hammer and knife, for really no reason. It's really sad to hear this story. So that was really it. Not a lot of information, but there was a lot of information jam-packed in that small snippet there that I wanted to give you. And that really is the update I have on that case as well. So again, this is Dev with Crime Hive, and if you like these kind of videos, if you've stuck with me this far, consider subscribing to my channel. I come out with a lot of videos, going to be doing many more on other cases and updates as we go through. And we'll be back in another video soon. This is Dev with Crime Hive.